Yo, what is good, my brothers and sisters? It's your boy, Dusty Mike. Sadly, this week I don't have too much to show you guys. I'm actually currently working on an artwork, you know what I'm saying? You saw my last vlog, I bought a new canvas. Right now I'm working on the sketch for that canvas. And as I told you guys in the video, it's gonna be solo leveling related. Basically just gonna be a solo leveling piece, but with a little tiny twist of my own, if you know what I'm saying. Normally, I would have just waited until I was like completely finished with the whole artwork and then show you guys the final result and my process, but this time I think I'm gonna do it a little bit different. So for each week I'll try to keep you guys updated and show you guys how far I am and basically just share my thoughts throughout the different phases and processes while I'm actually working on the art piece, instead of just waiting until I'm completely done, because that way I can keep you guys updated each week and create content. So hey, yeah man, you can say I'm up here with the 1000 IQ club. But not for real, I think this way of doing things will be more sustainable for me as a solo creator. I don't have a team of editors, I don't have like a team of writers or anything. I'm just me doing my own stuff. The editing in these type of videos is gonna be minimal, since I'm mostly just gonna be focusing on showing you guys what I'm currently working on. But yeah man, let me show you guys. You guys have already heard me say that I was inspired by solo leveling for this art piece, so I'm not gonna be dwelling too much on that fact. I can tell you that Sung Jinwoo is gonna be the main character of this art piece, and even though I'm just so excited and looking forward to start painting on the canvas, I still want to make sure I get this art piece right, even though there's not really a specific look I'm going for, but I still do have some sort of idea what I'm going for. So to be completely sure it turns out the way I want it to, I'm just gonna start sketching out on paper. That way I can still make changes whenever I feel like. Then I don't have to like start over from scratch, you know what I'm saying? So yeah man, I wanted Jinwoo to be in the front of this artwork and then his shadows in the background. If you remember my Dandadan art piece, I started testing out the new perspective drawing technique. It turned out pretty well, so I thought, let me just try and do it again with this art piece. Throughout the week before I started this sketch, I actually made some other sketches for the characters. So I basically made a sketch of Jinwoo, trying to grasp his whole character, trying to figure out what kind of grip I wanted him to wear. And I also made a sketch of Igris and of Tang, and a little sketch of Iron as well. And also Tusk, I also did Tusk, but not really something too major. I just wanted to get the feeling of their characters, you know what I'm saying? I like to do that before I make the final art piece. I'd never drawn Jinwoo before, so this was quite a challenge, especially with his hair. He has some weird hair, to be honest. But it's really unique actually, even though it looks kind of basic. He has this undercut that somehow looks really stylish, but it was still really fun to draw since his hair is pretty chunky. For the drip itself, I was kind of inspired by the whole Korean streetwear niche, which is pretty natural since solo leveling is a Korean manhwa to begin with, and got turned into a Japanese anime. I've always been a fan of streetwear in general, so I started looking into the Korean streetwear, and I guess you could say it's pretty universal. I still want to give Jinwoo that whole baggy vibe, baggy relaxed fit vibe. At the same time, I also want him to look a bit more, I don't want to say classical, because I really don't like old money style, but I want him to look a bit more like, I guess you could say softcore. I really don't know if that's what it's called. So basically decided to give him a button down shirt. First I gave him jeans and also a winter fur coat. I haven't completely decided on the fabric itself. I don't know if I'm gonna go with leather or if I'm just gonna go with like a more solid cotton. I think I need to figure that out before I start the painting. I had a lot of trouble with drawing his nose, especially because, I don't know, solo leveling's art style is kind of, I wouldn't say it's kind of minimal, but it's less detailed, you could say, in a way. It doesn't have the specific seinen look. Instead of giving him more of like a realistic looking nose, I just gave him the typical anime nose, you could say. And for the jeans, I actually changed them. I was worried it was gonna look too basic, you know. Not to say that this fit isn't clean, but I wanted it to look a bit more sleek, I guess you could say. I can put a picture up on the screen to show you guys what kind of style I'm going for with his pants. I guess you could say I'm going for a more relaxed, tailored pants look instead of going with denim again, because my last JJK artwork, I gave both Yuji and Yuta denim jeans. So I thought, let me do something different this time. And it actually turned out pretty well. I also decided to give him his dagger, one he got after he defeated Ikaris. I actually like that dagger the most. I think that's the cleanest looking one he got right now in the anime. We're only in season 2. I don't know if season 3 has been confirmed yet. Actually, I think they're still discussing that. And I don't know if he's gonna get any more daggers, but I really like the look of that one. It looks clean. I think most of his clothes are gonna be either black or at least dark gray, because you know he's a really edgy guy. He likes dark colors, man. Because if you know Jinwoo, at least from what I've seen in the manhwa, he wears a lot of black. So I thought, hey, let me just continue that theme. He is a shadow monarch after all, so I think that's the most obvious choice to go with. I didn't know I wanted Ikaris and Biro in the front, because I think those are some of my favorite shadows of his. But I did also want to make sure Kaiser was included, even though he's a dragon, so he's gonna take up a lot of space. I'm gonna see how that's gonna turn out in the final artwork, but right now I just had to kind of squeeze him in, you could say. But Tusk and Iron were also kind of problematic because they're both very big, so I think the shadows are gonna give me a hard time, to be honest, when it comes to the canvas, because they're already giving me a hard time now to fit them in. I don't know where exactly I'm gonna place them, but I think I'm just winging it right now. Maybe I'm gonna change their positions around when it comes to the final canvas. The funny thing about it is, when you look at my sketches from this week, I think I accidentally gave Ikaris a bit more aura than I gave Jinwoo. But I think I kind of corrected it in this sketch. Of course, I still want Ikaris to have a lot of aura because he's one of my favorite shadows. I actually don't know which of them is my favorite. Biro is also kind of clean. He can talk as well, so it only makes sense to have him in the front together with Ikaris, because he's definitely his strongest shadow so far. I don't think I'm gonna change their designs. I was actually wondering if I should keep the normal black and blue colors, or if I should make them black and purple. You know, they turn purple once he activates his ability. I forgot what it's called, but you know what I'm talking about. It's the ability that increases their strength. I don't know if I should make them purple. I'll have to play around with the colors to see what looks best. I think the sky in the background is gonna be blue for the most part, so maybe purple is the way to go, just to get some different colors in, you know. And I'm gonna basically just set the whole scene to be in one of the dungeons. I think I don't have any specific dungeon in mind, but since he's wearing a winter coat, maybe I'm gonna set the dungeon to be like a winter dungeon or something like that. I don't know. But this winter coat actually just got inspired by the coat he was wearing in, I think it was the first episode of season 2, when he was in that winter dungeon, and he basically got Iron and Tank on his team. He basically got 2 new shadows in one dungeon when you think about it. But yeah, man, other than this, I don't have too much to show you guys. This is the final result of the sketch. It looks really clean. I'm hella satisfied with it. Of course, it's gonna look way better on the canvas itself, both because obviously it's a canvas, but also just because I'm gonna have a lot more space to play around with and a lot more leeway than on our A3 piece of paper. I don't know, I just feel restricted when I draw on paper. I've always done that. I've always felt restricted. One of my biggest worries with this artwork was I wasn't sure I'm able to show Jinwoo's whole fit. And you know what I'm saying? That's one of the most important parts, man. You gotta make sure they see the fit. So on my sketches, you can see I had a whole like front face angle. For some reason, I thought, nah, man, that angle is it just looks awkward. It just looks really stale. To make the artwork more dynamic, I had to try and like rotate him a bit, you know what I'm saying? I had to make sure he's just not front facing, I guess you could say. And I think it actually turned out pretty well. I did have to use some reference photos for this. I'm not really used to drawing people walking like this. Drawing people walking is so much harder than you think. It's insane. I could definitely feel I still don't have my human anatomy down. The thing about making artwork, you always find new things to work on and new things you need to improve. I really love drawing, man. I really love painting as well. Honestly, if you don't like to improve, or if you don't like to acknowledge there are things you can still get better at, I honestly just don't think you can make it as an artist, because that's a crucial point. Basically just being able to acknowledge your weaknesses. But yeah, man, this is basically the sketch so far. I don't know how I'm gonna transfer this to the canvas. I'm just gonna have to sketch the canvas again, but I'm basically making this sketch to make sure it looks the way I want it to. And right now I'm pretty satisfied. Maybe, as I said, I'm gonna move the shadows around. I'm not sure. So yeah, I'm gonna see if I can transfer this to the canvas, and I'll basically show you how that looks next week. And also I'm gonna prime the canvas. Oh yeah, I need to make sure I prime the canvas first, because hey, apparently you're supposed to do that. So I'm gonna show you guys that as well next week. So yeah, thank you so much for tuning in and listening to me yap about my solar leveling art project. And yeah, as always, make sure to stay beautiful and take care out there because it's a crazy world. Alright guys, man, much love, peace.